In this video, I'd like to show some advanced techniques using the brush feature in Lightroom 4 and 5. We'll be discussing masking and some selection techniques, as well as some rudimentary aspects of converting to black and white. So let's get started. You can see in this before and after that I've converted the image into a black and white. That introduced some issues with the yellow jacket becoming brighter than a brighter tone than the subject's skin. And you can see a couple techniques to take care of that, and then how I use the brush feature to do that. So this was the before image. I'm going to do a quick crop. I used my thirds feature in my crop tool. I'm doing a no specific aspect ratio crop based on the final version being, for right now, being digital. Okay, I'm just cropping down to get the subject's eyes on the thirds, not worried about cutting off the head. I want to make sure I get these lines in here, which focus on the subject's face, on his eyes. It's always the eye closer to the camera. And that's a good crop. Now, I'd like to work on converting it to black and white. V is the quick button to get you to black and white, and you can see I have this issue with the yellow. It's too bright. I could come up here and bring down under the HSL slider the black and white function of that, selecting just the yellows and bringing that down. But you can see there's some yellows in the subject's face, and it affects other areas of the image that I don't want to affect. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go in and paint a mask darkening on that jacket. Quick key for the brush dialog is the K button, and I have a pre-made selection I use whenever I want to de-emphasize something. You can see all the things that it's doing, and then I can go in and tweak it after that. Important thing here is have your brush flow up high. Quick key for that is the number keys. Have it up nice and high. Have the auto mask off, and double click up, make it a pretty large brush, feather about midway. So it's going to brush it right on there, nice and dark. And then for the feel of how much I want, I leave the mask off so I can see it. But I can always go in and tweak that later. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the mask on, which is quick button O. Don't worry about going over the jacket and bleeding over. That's what we're going to take care of that later. I found it's easier to paint and go over and then get rid of that with the mask feature. So I don't have it on 100%, so I'm having to pass over a couple times. I do like to be able to do that. That way if I miss anything, I don't miss that much. And I make sure I have a good, even coverage over the entire area that I want to hide. Okay, now with the Alt button, I'm going to go in and I'm going to get rid of that. And I have the mask feature selected and 100%. And now with that mask feature, it's going to keep me from deleting the actual yellow jacket. As long as I don't take up too much of the brush with it, then it should do a really good job. And the red is less forgiving than what it would be in real life. In real life, I wouldn't even see those areas right there. You can see it's having a little bit of an issue on a couple of the edges. Once I flip back over and I take the mask off, I'll see, does that fingernail down there really matter? Does that show up? How about this area right here that it's kind of having a hard time with? So the biggest thing is this line right here. I want to make sure I get a clean line right here so it doesn't look like a halo. You see halos in images when a portion of the tone has been affected and the other portion of the tone is left alone. And then the edge is not clean, and that's what causes a halo. So quick button, I'm going to hit the O and get rid of my mask. And I can see I have a really clean line all around the whole thing. See a little bit of fringing right here, so I can see my mask kind of failed me, so I could just go in with this feather on and just kind of feather that brush on, and it'll get rid of that selection there. So you can see it up here, this fringe. I'm going to make my brush small, and I'm just going to let it bleed over a little bit. It doesn't matter that it's going to bleed over. It'll look better than, you can't ever tell. It'll look better than having that fringe on the edge there. I don't want that halo. I don't want anything that looks like a halo because it just screams Photoshopped. So I'm going to get rid of that right there. I'd rather have that fringe than that obvious halo. So there you go. Just quick final things from the image. Hit my K button. I'm going to go to my sharpen brush. Max it out. Just brush it right on the eye. I always sharpen my eyes. And I always like, after you hit the enter button, I'm going to go in with my custom dodge. I'm just going to dodge the eyes a little bit. And then I always take that dodge off of the pupil because that should be as dark as possible. I'm pretty much done. Hit enter a couple times, it gets rid of all your brushes, or I could hit K. And just come in and hit J to show my blacks. And I'm just going to take the blacks down a little bit. Not showing up anywhere that matters. Looks good. And that's it. So that was some advanced selection features and using quick keys for brushes. Quick keys to remember is K to bring up the brush, O or H, which I didn't cover, but H has this, shows where the brushes are. So you can select the one that you've used previously, and then O toggles the mask off and on by hitting the O button. Once you've selected a mask, you can just hit O and it'll toggle that mask off and on. So I hope that helps. Remember to use the mask and don't use the mask depending on whether it helps you or not. And then make sure you're toggling this flow whenever you want with just the number keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.